It's a sad fact but true, the V8 engine is on the way out. But before it does depart, we've got the chance to test these two very cool European exponents of the breed, the Mercedes-AMG C63 S and the Jaguar F-TYPE R-Dynamic P450. Who's got the greater V8? Let's find out. Jaguar only sells V8 F-types these days, but it's a last hurrah before the brand goes all electric in 2025. Meanwhile, the next generation C63 will dump its V8 for a 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine. What a shame. They're both pretty expensive and pretty close on price. They also both have a bunch of options that punch that price up further. The AMG has ceramic composite brakes that by themselves add $7,900. The F-Type is a classic two-seat coupe design, evocative of the iconic Jaguar E-Type. A 2020 update delivered a new clamshell bonnet, slimmer LED headlights and a bigger grille. And check out these 20-inch alloy wheels, the driver deployable rear spoiler and quad exhausts. The Benz is a bigger 4-seater and a meaner looker. That toothy Panamericana grille was rolled out as part of a 2018 update, along with LED headlights and taillights and some other styling bits and pieces. But the fundamental look is as per the car first seen in 2015. The Jaguar comes with the bigger engine. It's a meaty supercharged 5-litre version of the brand's staple AJ V8. However, the smaller M177 4-litre bi-turbo V8 in the Benz produces more power and torque, is claimed to be more fuel efficient and also accelerates faster from 0 to 100 kilometres an hour. The Jaguar relies on an orthodox 8-speed auto to drive the rear wheels, but the Benz opts for a trick AMG 9-speed semi-manual. Both can shift automatically or you can change the gears yourself. In that traditional sports car way, you really descend into the F-Type. It's deep down low, close to the road. You feel very connected. The fundamental design has not changed inside the F-Type since it first appeared in 2013. The sports seats still wrap in tight and the steering wheel is still big and adjusts for reach and rake to help you get comfortable. A bit surprisingly, all the controls in the centre stack point straight ahead, not angled toward the driver at all. There's not a heap of storage, but this is a 2-seat sports car after all. You do get door bins, cup holders, a glove box and a centre lidded bin. These days the F-Type comes with a digital instrument display, but it's not configurable in the way that the Benz is, so you can change the look. There's also a 10-inch touchscreen, which is a bit bigger than what the original F-Type had, but the operating system is much the same as before and still that bit convoluted. The F-Type comes with the key tech features. That means Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. But there's no wireless connection or charging. The audio system is a 10-speaker Meridian setup. Just don't know how they squeezed all those speakers in here though. Both a reversing camera and parking sensors come standard with the F-Type, which is handy because it's not the easiest car to see out of. Auto parking assistance is an option, which seems stingy at this price. The C63S is an easier car for an old bloke like me to access and exit. These heavily bolstered performance seats are actually optional. The standard seat is easier to slide in and out of. The working environment here is pretty busy compared to the Jaguar. There's a lot to take in. The C63S feels so much bigger inside than the F-Type, and it's easy to get yourself comfortable thanks to the power adjustability of the seat and the steering wheel. When it comes to storage, the C63S is either okay or amazing depending on what you think of the rear seats as a place to put people or luggage. Our tip, take your GLS if there's more than 2 of you in need of transport. The C63S is a significant techno leap ahead of the F-Type. There's just so much more to adjust here. We've already mentioned the configurable instrument display. Once you settle on a design, you then get to populate the rest of the space with what you want. There's also a head-up display. One significant omission in the C63S is a touch function for the infotainment screen. You can access it by voice, buttons, scrolling and the touchpad, but this is old thinking at Benz, as the new generation C-Class has a touchscreen, and that means the next C63 will too. Manoeuvring in tight spaces in a coupe is never that much fun, but at least the C63S has a reasonable glass house to help you see out. It also comes with a 360-degree camera, parking sensors and auto parking. Only the lack of a head-up display drops the F-Type behind the C63S when it comes to the sort of fundamental infotainment tech you'd expect in these cars. The C63S is better equipped when it comes to important safety equipment. The Jaguar does have some key features like blind spot assistance among its options. If you're looking for luggage space, well, better off looking elsewhere. These are two cars that are much more about go than stow. But if you have to pick one that's more functional than the other, it's the Benz. There's simply more space, much more. The Jag struggles to fit a soft bag under its hatch. Okay, enough of the boots, the buttons and the other bits. These are two booming V8 sports cars. Let's go drive them. The F-Type's cockpit is so snug and compact, it's a surprise the steering wheel is this big. It's just a little bit out of kilter. Everything else about the drive experience is very much concise and to the point. And that especially applies to the engine. There's no fuss here, no explosion of craziness, just a constant escalation of effort thanks to the supercharger. Not that you notice its presence that much on low throttle. The engine is quite muted in its soundtrack, but give it a hit and it becomes explosive. You sit so rearward in the F-Type, you're really always conscious of what the rear tyres are doing. There's a lot of power and a lot of grip, and sometimes the balance between the two feels a bit edgy. The F-Type does come with adjustable dampers with comfort and dynamic settings, but we couldn't really feel much difference. Baseline, it does ride okay for a sport suspension. You get some tyre noise in the F-Type, but for the most part, it's not a raucous cabin. There's some exhaust noise at higher revs, but for the most part, it's pretty refined. Sitting so low with the long bonnet out in front, the F-Type never feels like a goldfish bowl, that's for sure. It's okay looking forward, but side and rear head checks can be a challenge. After the simple interior of the F-Type, the C63S is like settling into a spaceship. Hit the throttle and it's like being launched by one as well. The C63's V8 simply feels more on it than the F-Type's engine. Some of it is because it's more obvious and usually louder. But it also snaps you back into the seat under acceleration and adds speed at an incredible rate. Maybe it shouldn't, but the C63S feels more connected and confident than the F-Type to drive. As speeds rise, it's simply more involving. It really wants you to have a go. The downside of all that aggression is a ride setup that can be jangling in even the mildest comfort mode. In Sport Plus, it's simply jarring. Oh, it's undoubtedly noisy in here as well. Some of it is good noise, like the engine and exhaust, but some of it, like the tyre rumble, is just annoying. The C63S is undoubtedly easier to see out of than the F-Type. All the extra cameras and sensors help as well, but those rearward head checks still remain a bit of guesswork. Driving these two vehicles is just good old-fashioned fun, but there's a clear delineation between them. The C63S is an elite experience with overwhelming capability. The F-Type doesn't hit those heady heights, but it is a very enjoyable vehicle to experience. No argument, the F-Type emerges on top when it comes to cost of ownership. Servicing is complimentary for the first 5 years. Well, where does all that leave us? Absolutely pumped to have been able to drive 2 such memorable V8 sports cars. That's where. No other engine combines sound and fury like a V8. Undoubtedly, we're sad the time for such engines is nearing an end. But if you're going to go out, there can be few better ways of doing it than powering a car like this, the Mercedes-AMG C63 S. Hey, the Jaguar is a great car, but this thing is a ground-shaking epic, a memorable engine for a memorable car. And if we're going to say farewell, that's just as it should be.